calls us, don't let it fade.
Welcome to Liberty Monday with Monday. Today we continue our study of the Declaration of Independence by examining the 19th and 20th of the 27 grievances. These grievances focus on the breakdown of civil order and the Crown's role in inciting internal instability and conflict within the colonies. By this point in the Declaration, the pattern is clear. The founders are no longer describing isolated policies. They are documenting a sustained shift toward force, division, and the erosion of lawful governance. Grievances 19 and 20 show how the conflict extended beyond government actions into the disruption of society itself. Context: from governance to instability. Earlier grievances focused on laws, courts, and representation. But as tensions escalated, the effects were no longer confined to institutions. The colonists believed the Crown's actions were now undermining civil order, encouraging conflict within communities, weakening the bonds that held society together. These grievances reflect a turning point where political conflict began spilling into everyday life. The 19th grievance, cutting off trade and economic stability. The text of the grievance: He has cut off our trade with all parts of the world. What this means? This grievance refers to British actions that restricted colonial trade, particularly through measures like the Prohibitory Act of 1775. The act effectively declared that colonial trade would be halted. American ships could be seized. The colonies were outside the protection of the British Crown. From the colonial perspective, this was economic warfare. Why trade was so important? Trade was central to colonial life and prosperity. The colonies depended on exporting goods such as tobacco, lumber, and agricultural products, importing manufactured goods, maintaining connections with global markets. Cutting off trade disrupted not just commerce, but the entire economic foundation of colonial society. The impact on the colonies. The restriction of trade had immediate and serious consequences. Loss of income for merchants and farmers. Shortages of goods and supplies. Increased economic uncertainty. Greater tension between colonies and Britain. To the colonists, this action signaled that Britain was willing to damage their livelihoods to enforce compliance. The principle at stake. The founders believed that economic freedom was closely tied to political freedom. By cutting off trade, the Crown exerted control over colonial prosperity. Economic pressure was used as a tool of political coercion. The colonies were treated as subjects to be controlled rather than partners in an empire. This grievance highlights the connection between economic independence and political liberty. The 20th grievance, inciting domestic insurrections. The text of the grievance: He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us. What this means? This grievance accuses the Crown of encouraging internal uprisings within the colonies. Most notably, it refers to British efforts to encourage enslaved people to revolt by offering freedom in exchange for joining British forces, exploit divisions within colonial society, create instability that would weaken resistance to British authority. From the colonial perspective, this was a deliberate attempt to destabilize society. Why this was so concerning? The idea that a government would encourage internal conflict among its own subjects was deeply alarming. The colonists believed this action threatened public safety, increased fear and uncertainty, undermined trust within communities. Rather than maintaining order, the Crown was seen as fostering division. The broader context. Lord Dunmore's proclamation in 1775 is often associated with this grievance. It offered freedom to enslaved individuals who would join British forces. While this had complex moral and historical dimensions, many colonists interpreted it as a strategic move to weaken colonial resistance, an attempt to create chaos within the colonies, a willingness to use internal divisions as a tool of war. The principle at stake. At its core, this grievance reflects the belief that government should protect the peace and stability of society. By encouraging insurrections, the Crown appeared to abandon its responsibility to maintain order. social divisions were intensified rather than resolved. The safety of communities was put at risk. This reinforced the perception that British authority was no longer acting in the interest of the colonies. How Grievances 19 and 20 work together. These two grievances reveal a coordinated pattern. First, the Crown applied economic pressure by cutting off trade. Second, it encouraged internal instability through insurrections. Together, these actions weakened the colonies economically, disrupted social order, increased fear and uncertainty, made peaceful resolution more difficult. From the colonial perspective, this was not governance. It was escalation. Why these grievances were included. The Declaration of Independence was intended to justify separation to both domestic and international audiences. By including these grievances, the founders argued that the British government had moved beyond policy disagreements. It was now actively harming the colony's stability and prosperity. It could no longer be trusted to govern fairly. These were not abstract complaints. They were tangible actions affecting daily life. Why these grievances still matter. Grievances 19 and 20 highlight enduring principles. Economic freedom is essential to political independence. Governments should promote stability, not division. Power should not be used to create internal conflict. A free society depends on both prosperity and social trust. When governments use economic pressure or social division as tools of control, liberty becomes vulnerable. In conclusion, Grievances 19 and 20 show how the conflict between Britain and the American colonies extended beyond laws and institutions into the economic and social fabric of colonial life. By cutting off trade and encouraging internal unrest, the Crown appeared to abandon its role as a protector of stability and instead became a source of disruption. For the founders, these actions confirmed that the relationship between the colonies and Britain had fundamentally changed. The Declaration of Independence records these grievances to demonstrate that independence was not simply a political choice. It was a response to a pattern of actions that threatened the security, prosperity, and unity of the colonies. Understanding these grievances helps us see how deeply the founders valued both economic freedom and social stability as essential components of liberty. Thank you for watching. As always, stay informed, stay free.